Hi there! In today's video, I would like to reverse engineer this, the Gmail autocompletion. So if I say something like, hi, and I say, sorry for the late reply, it will automatically autocomplete this. How does this work? That's what I want to find out. And I want to connect it to ChatGPT so that we actually get autocompletion from ChatGPT. And maybe we can even make it like GitHub Copilot so that it will suggest code, because that's basically the same thing. So if you would like to join me on this adventure to figure out how this works, then just keep watching, because that's what I'm going to do. So let's get right started. So how I want this to work is I want to have some sort of HTML file, and let's add some boilerplate code here. And I want to have just a text area and maybe like some class on it, like autocomplete or whatever. It doesn't matter how we determine that this is the element that we want to use. And then I want to have some sort of script here. And this should just say something like document query selector autocomplete. And in fact, selector all, because I would like to have multiple of these on the same page. And for each of these, we want to do something like autocomplete E. So we just want to bind this autocompletion to all of the text areas that have the autocomplete class. Now, of course, this is not going to do anything. So if I xtg open index.html, we just have this text area here. And of course, nothing happens. And the thing is, how do you actually, if I zoom in a little bit, how do you actually add to a text area text in a different color? I don't think you can even do that. So do we like add some extra element on top of it and then try to position the text in the right place, or what? So let's take a look here. And we have this reply here. And even the cursor changes when I go over the reply. So it's not text anymore. Everywhere around we have this text cursor, but on reply is the regular cursor. And if I try to go right, it actually uses this one. So it turns into normal text. And if I go back, then automatically it will convert into this grayed out version. So can I inspect this thing? If I right click, it disappears. But if I go to inspect, then here we have a bunch of divs. And here's our hi, which is actually just a regular text node. And then we have an empty div. And then we have another div that has a new line. And then we have sorry for the late. So this is actually not a text area. This is just a div. And we have this content editable attribute here. So let's do actually that. Let's implement this function autocomplete that takes an element. And we want to actually replace this text area with a div. So let's do that. Let's say const div equals document create element div. And I guess we can just say div dot content editable equals true. And then we can just add that in there. Let's not position it anyhow. Let's just do document body dot append child div. And I guess we should like hide the original element. But let's just do this for now. And let's add a class to this. Let's say div dot class list add. It's not autocomplete items. This is just autocomplete div. I can't think of a better name for this at the moment. And let's put some styles here too. Let's just slap everything in the same file. And let's just add a border for it. So autocomplete div will have a border 1 pixel solid black, so that we can see it. And let's see if this actually will work. So if I go back here and I refresh, then here is our wait a minute. Okay, here is our text area, right? And here is our div. So actually, we already have this text cursor and we can write into the div because we have the content editable attribute set here. Okay, so does that mean that we can just add an element to the end of the div and then it will appear wherever the last word is? Or we can just put it anywhere in the text and then it will appear there and it's going to be in the right place. So let's add another class here. Let's call this Autocompletion. I'm not sure what is this, what should this be called? And yes, this is going to be a gray color. So this is going to be the part of the text that is the autocompletion. And how about we do something like this? Let's say we have something here already, lorem ipsum. Then what we want to do is we want to add text content to this, and we set it to the element value. And then we are going to add to this a div which has the class autocompletion. So should we create that? Const autocompletion div. I mean, these are terrible names. I just call this autocompletion, but I really want to call the text the autocompletion. Autocompletion container. Terrible name. It's too long, but anyway, we're going to add a class to it, autocompletion, and we are going to add that into this div. And let's just add, let's say that the const autocompletion is now going to be something like, this is a test. And we're going to set the value to that and then add it there. So what will this look like? If I refresh, then it will look like this. So we have this is a test here and we have this here. But now we can edit this as well. So we don't want to do that. And this should really be like a span, or I guess we can just change it to be display inline or inline block. I'm not sure which one we should use. So if we now refresh, then we have an autocompletion here. That's pretty cool. And how can we make it so that we can't edit this? Can I just add content editable false to this autocompletion? Not sure. Let's see what that will do. Yes, we can't edit this anymore, but we can edit this. Okay, so we are actually getting close already. But now we don't always want to have it in the end. It should really be wherever our cursor is. So we have to detect the cursor position. So how do we do that? Get cursor position, and it is going to be window get selection. And do we have to do something else? Okay, range. And what is that? Position is start offset. Now, is this always an offset from the current element that is selected? I'm guessing. I have never used the get selection method in JavaScript. And can we get the character that is in that position? Is it just going to be like, since we use text content, can we just get like a slice of the array? Or is there something in the selection? Is there like a const char is going to be, okay, div text content position. That makes sense. But is it going to work? Hopefully. So basically this will tell us what is the character at the current cursor position. And then we can do something like if char is a space, then we do exactly this. Wait a minute, what are we doing? Text content is text content slice 0 position. Well, that's not what I want to do at all. Although I do want to get that part and I want to get the last part. So let's call this const what? Just a start, and then we can get the end, which is going to be from the position onwards. So then we can create our autocompletion, and I guess we can remove the space from that. And we can then add the autocompletion in between the start and the end. But again, I think this text content might screw something up if we have some formatting in there. But let's see what will happen. And let's actually console log something. Let's console the position and the character so we can see, is this actually the last character or the next to last, or what is this? So we want to get the start and the end, and we want to then say div text content is start, and then we add to it the autocompletion, and then we do text content plus equals the end. So then it's going to be in the middle. But if we now refresh, nothing's going to happen because, well, actually, we probably got some error. Let's see what is going on. Get range at on selection. 0 is not a valid index. Maybe because we have not selected anything. Is that correct? So what is this? It can be null. But it is not null because that's not the error we got. Can we like check the length of the selection? Okay, let's do this. Let's set a timeout and let's wait for a while so that I can add my cursor in there. Let's do 5 seconds. So if I now go here and I refresh and I put my cursor there and I wait 5 seconds, is it now going to work? It is going to work. But this is a test is now here. It's in the beginning. So let's check our logs. The position is 1 and it is a space. Why is that? Wait a minute. We don't have a selection. We just clicked somewhere in here. So let's actually ask the real ChatGPT. How do I get the current cursor position, or should it be called caret? What is the actual word? Caret position in a content editable field in JavaScript. To get the current position of the caret, you can use the selection and range APIs. Window get selection to get the current selection object. This object represents the range of text selected by the user. Okay, but I haven't selected anything. The selection object can have multiple ranges in case of multiple selections, but usually it has only one range. So we can use this to get the first range object. Then we can calculate the position by creating a range that spans from the start of the content editable element to the current position. Okay, how does that work? Okay, that's a little bit more code than I expected. So caret offset is 0. And document is either element owner document or element document. And window is either default view or doc parent window. And then we set a selection. And if the selection is not undefined, okay, this is support for IE, great. Then we get the selection. And if we have more than 0 ranges, then we get the range, and pre-caret range is range.clone range. And then we select the whole element and we set the end to the end container. Okay, that's very complicated. So then we can calculate the offset of the caret. That was much more complicated than I wanted. And then for IE, we have to like get the range and then get text range and then move to text element, set endpoint, end to end, text range. Okay. So I guess we just have to copy and trust that this code works. Let's slap it in here. And let's see if that works. So they should return the position where the caret is at. So we can just say that the position is going to be get caret position of the element. And then we can get the character. But I noticed that this is a mistake. We can't do text content because if we then append something to it and then we append again to the text content, then it is not going to work. So I have to instead say something like div.inner HTML is going to be, and let's just add a div in there. And in here we are going to add the start. And then we're going to append the autocompletion container to the div. And then we can add the rest, so the end. Maybe inner HTML is not the best function to use here, but let's see if we can make something happen. Let's go back here and refresh and put our caret in there. And it is not at a space, so it actually shouldn't do anything, but it did something. So let's see what we have here again. We have 0 and again a space. And why we have space is that we added some new lines here. So actually we have to do this. But still, it didn't work. We didn't get the caret position. Now, the element is the text area, but the div is the div. So does that screw something up? Now, we should still get the position because at the time when we call autocomplete, we are focused on the text area. Let's try it one more time. And I will put the cursor here, and then nothing happened because we are not at a space because we don't have the extra spaces in the beginning. And the first character is L. But why are we at the first character when we are clearly not at the first character? Let's ask Google, how do I get the caret position in JavaScript? Let's just do this. Now this is from an input, but I'm not sure if that matters. We can have an event listener and we can just get this selection start. And I think this refers to what? To the element? So is it that easy? Let's do something like this. Let's console log element dot select start. What was it called? Selection start. Let's do that. Is there actually directly this kind of thing? And I wasted a whole lot of time here. So I'll click here. And now we did that. And if I go here, we are at number 8. So that is how you do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Well, that simplifies things a lot. But can I get the position from the content editable field? Which I'm not actually doing right now, but we can do that. Now, we shouldn't do all this stuff in this autocomplete function because this just initializes it. So maybe we can even call it init autocomplete. And let's call it here init autocomplete. And let's remove this timeout from here. And this should really be in an event listener. So let's copy that. And we want to add to the div now an event listener. So div add event listener input. Is that correct? Let's just do key down or key up, I guess. So when we press a key inside of this autocomplete div, then we are going to do something. Let's just call it do autocomplete. And we give it the element. Well, we don't need the element anymore. We just need the div, which I guess is just this if we use regular functions. And we can create that here. Function do autocomplete. And this will get the div. And it will then do all this stuff. So now we get the position from the div and hope that it works. And then we calculate the character that is at that position. And we log it. And then if the character is space, then we do this start and end. And we add the start and then we add this extra bit and then we do the end. And I guess otherwise we should remove the auto completion from there. So can we just do document dot query selector all auto completion for each e remove. Let's do that. And let's console log this removed auto completion. And we might as well add here adding auto completion. So now we initialize it and this should be removed. We initialize all of the auto completions here. And what this does is it creates the div and it adds the event listener and it adds the div to the body. And in the event listener, we are going to then get the position and do all this stuff. So now, if I refresh, it directly looks like this. And if I click here and I press right a couple of times, then it should do something, but nothing is happening. What is going on? Absolutely nothing is going on. These are the old logs. So does it even go to the do autocomplete? Let's console. Wait, it should either do adding autocompletion or it should say removed autocompletion. So this is not doing anything. Do I really need to use input? I have never used an event listener called input. Maybe it's a special one for this content editable field. Let's see. So now if I do this and this and this and this and this, nothing happens. And nothing happens here either. So what if we change this to click? That should do something at least. And refresh. And damn it. I didn't bind the event listener on the text area. I bound it on this thing. So now if I click over here in some of these places, then we should get the stuff here. And it's undefined. Okay, that makes sense. So let's change it back to key up. And why were both of these undefined? I guess because we can't do selection start, because it is not an input. But let's try it now. Let's remove all of these and let's refresh. And if we click here and then we do like that and we go here, then now it actually works. But everything is undefined, which is kind of not that fun. So how do we fix that? Let's ask how to get the correct position of content editable field in JavaScript. Okay, so now we have to use this window get selection, which seems to be a very difficult thing to accomplish. The following code assumes there is always a single text node within the editable div and no other nodes. The editable div does not have a CSS whitespace property set to pre. And here we actually have some code that looks very similar to what ChatGPT wrote. So should we try this out? I guess we should. Let's copy this and replace what ChatGPT wrote. And let's see if that works. So we in fact do need to call it this way. And this should still kind of work. Let's see what happens now. If I refresh and I go here and I click around, look at this. What happened? If I go to the space here, wait a minute. Why did it work only once? But it did work. So let's check this out. Now it's L every time. But we added here, somewhere. Here. We got to character 5, which was a space, and then we added the autocompletion. But then it stopped working. Then we get 0 every time. Why is that? Did we lose some sort of context? Do we in fact have to use the arrow function? I mean, I don't think so. Let's try this again. If I refresh and I press right and I go before the space, then we add this is a test. And if I go back, it disappears. But now, if I go there again, it doesn't happen. Why is that? Why did we lose that thing? Why are we now at 0 all the time? Does something happen when we set the inner HTML? Let's remove these and let's go back here and refresh. And now if I move here, it goes to the end. And if I go forward, it disappears. If I go back, okay. We can't change the inner HTML. That will screw something up. So now it works. Now when we go here, it appears. But we should actually add 1 to it. So position is get current position plus 1. So I guess what we have to do is not use inner HTML, but create like a const start div or start element, start container. And that is a div, and then we set the text of that to the start, and then div append child start container, and we do the same thing with the end container. So this is going to be end container. So then it should work. Let's verify. If I go here and I move, wait a minute, what? What's going on? I did something wrong now. What happened? Let's refresh. I'm here. I go right, right. Did I actually have to do -1? Why did we add... Oh, sorry. We have to remove the content from it. So how do we do that? Do we actually have to not set the text content, but we add the start there? Let's do that. I mean, it doesn't matter. So we need to remove everything from there, but we can't change inner HTML. So what if we just do this? Wait a minute. Because I could add like the initial value inside of the start and then remove the start. But can I just remove everything? Remove everything from div. Text. Can I change text content but not inner HTML? Let's see what that will do. Refresh. And I move here and I move there. Okay. It seems to kind of work. But now we add a new line because we have a div in there. And then, it doesn't work anymore. So can we say const old start is going to be div query selector, and we select, I mean, damn it, we don't have a start there now. But does it matter? Can I just remove all elements? Let's just select all the elements and remove them. But how is that different from inner HTML? I'm not quite sure. What if we just find everything, all, and then for each we remove them? Is that gonna help? And I guess we still have to have like an element there. So let's take the start thing from here and let's set the original autocomplete element to have this value in there. Like that. Let's try again. If I now refresh, it looks just the same. And if I move over here, nothing happens at all. Why? We are now at 1 all the time, which is O. Okay, because this is 0 and this is 1. So I guess this again broke it. So we can't remove any elements. So how do we then do this? If I don't remove them and I go over here, it still doesn't work. We're still at 1. What? Move and go here. We're at 1. Is this now because we add elements in there? Because like they said in Stack Overflow, there's always a single text node within the div. But here they say if you need a more general approach, then we have another answer. Let's see if that will work. Here it is. So let's copy this mess and paste it in here. Now I really don't like it that I had to copy this whole thing of code. I really wanted to figure it out myself. But this is too complicated. Like, who knows how to do this? Nobody knows. So let's see if that will work any better. And I will just call it get caret position. And let's try this. Refresh. Go here. And we are going to move. And now it works. But something is being appended to the thing. Because we are not removing now the elements. So if I remove the elements now. And I refresh. And then I move here. It will add that. If I move forward, it will remove it. But we moved back to the beginning. And it should be -1, I guess. Or why did that happen? Yes. So this should be -1. But then we're going to have a -1 index, which is not going to work. So do we need to say let position is that, and if, or just say position equals position less than 0, then it's 0, and otherwise it's position. Let's try it. And now if we go here, we add it, but now we lost the caret. Okay. So we just have to bring the caret back. But if I now press again, it disappears, but now we're in the beginning. And now it appeared again. And if I press here, we have to add a click event as well. But if I go here, then it's going to be added there. And I should add the, wait a minute. We should, I guess, make all div elements display inline block, or we should add spans in there. I guess I'm not sure why I use divs. So let's just do that. These are all spans. And I guess let's call all of these spans. So then it should work better. Although that is not supposed to be a span. Yeah, so the initial div should be a div, but everything else should be a span. So this is a span, that is a span, and that's it. Let's refresh. And now if we go here and we move here, it will be added there. Awesome. If I go here and I move there, it will be added there. But there should be a space here. So I need to add it somewhere. Maybe I still have to have space here, because when you have two spans, if a span ends in a space, does it remove it? Not sure what happens there. Or maybe we just remove. Yeah, we have to, let's not add a space here. Let's just say that the slice is going to be position +1. So then we're going to have the space in there. Okay. Now we just have to bring back the caret position. So after we add the autocompletion, we should move the caret back to the position it was in. Because when we modify the element, the caret position disappears. Now maybe there's a way to keep it, but I'm not sure how to do that. So let's try to just put it back at first. Let's take a look at this code. So here we are kind of cloning the original range, and then we are going to select the contents of the element. And then we set the end. So is there like a pre-caret range set start? So can we just do that? So if I copy this whole function and I create a function called set caret position, and we give the element and the position. So can we just do the same thing? We get the selection, but we check if we have a range. But if we haven't selected it, then this will just fail, I guess. Can we just create a new range? Let's just do this. Let's remove all the code and see what Copilot will say. Okay, it will actually create a new range, and then we will get the selection, and we set the start of the selection to the first node's position that, and collapse, not sure what happens there, and then we remove all ranges and we add that range and we focus the element. Let's see if Copilot is correct. So then we want to set it back. After we append the end container, we want to set the caret position back to the position +1. Let's see if that works. Let's refresh and press. Nothing happened. Where did it go? Let's see the console. Failed to execute set start on range. There is no child at offset 6. Okay, so I think what is happening here is that we are trying to set the start of the first child node to position 6. But perhaps we don't have this. Can we just say element? Can't we just say that? What are we using here? Set end range end container. Okay, well that is interesting. What is end container? Let's just try this. If we just set the element position to that, is that going to work? Press. It did not work. Let's go back. There is no child at offset 6. Now, why do we reset the position? I guess it's because we remove all of the elements. What if I just comment this out and I comment this out as well? Then what will happen now? It will now append to the end, and we kept our cursor position. And if we go to a space again, it will add in the end again. So could we remove the rest of the stuff and still keep the selection? Because technically we should still be able to keep the selection there if we just remove whatever is after that. So at first we add the start container and all the text is inside the start container. Can I then modify the text content in the start container so that we will remove everything after the caret position? So I'm not actually going to create a new span because we have a span there already. So I'm just going to say that it is div.querySelector, and I guess I can just do span. Is that going to be the first one or not? I guess I can do all, and I can take the 0th element. So that is the first span, which will be the start. And then we set that text content to the start. So that will effectively cut the rest of the text out. And then after that, we add the autocompletion, and then we add the end container. Let's see what that will do. If I go here and I move there, it worked, but we lost the cursor position. Now, can I add to the start, like position plus 2, let's say, is that going to affect anything? If I do that, yeah, we add an extra thing here, but we still lost the position. So we can set the text content. How do we change the text content without losing the caret position? Can we even do that? Let's see. Let's ask ChatGPT. Can I modify an element's text content without affecting the select range? Yes. How? Before changing the text content, save the current selection range. I mean, that makes sense. So why don't I just do that? Because in the function getCaretPosition, we get the selection and we get the range. So what if we return from this the caret offset and the original range, and then we just set that range back? Let's try and do that. Let's see how that actually works. So here we get the range, and we get start container, end container, start offset, end offset. So is this gonna be like a different element because we can select over multiple elements? So we have to have the start container and the end container. That's very complicated. Okay, we have a new range. And okay, so this is probably the magic we have to do. We have to remove all ranges and then add the new range. Let's see if that will work. But here we are not using the original range. We're just setting the start with the start container and the end container. So maybe this is what we have to do. And in fact, this too. So we have to return the start container and the end container. But I guess those will change when we change the content. So how are we going to do this? Let's go back. Actually, I will just leave it as it was, but I will add this back and see what will now happen. If we refresh and we do this, that happens. And we go here, fail to execute set start on range, there is no child at offset 6. Okay. And the error came from this, right? Line 23. And how did ChatGPT here use the set start? We have the start container. Okay, let's do this. Let's actually Google what is the actual documentation for this set start. What does it take? Sets the start position of a range. And it takes the start node, which is the node where the range should start. So it's a node. And originally here we had element get child nodes 0, right? Was that the thing? Or like this? Or just child nodes 0. But if we actually take a look at this thing and we say let A equal document query selector div. Is that now this? Yes. What do we have in a.child nodes? We have 3 spans. So we have the first span, which is that. Then we have the second span and the third span. And this does not have number 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do I need to just remove one from this? Is that the issue here? Let's try to do that. Refresh. And let's go here. Still, we don't have it. There's no child at offset 5. Okay. What if I just put 1? Is there something at 1? Refresh. Dun 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 dun. Hey, that worked. What is this? Wait a minute. Where does it go? 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we are still there, so we can actually type more. Wait a minute. I don't quite understand this now. What is happening here? Let's go back. And let's now remove all the stuff again. And let's create a new thing here. Div.document create element span. And we set the start like this. And we append child. Okay, so that was actually the issue. So I can use this, but I don't have to call append child because I'm just changing it directly. So we can still remove this. So now if I refresh and I go here, it adds it there and I'm still pointing there. And if I go right, we go here and it actually works. But how does it work? Why does it work? And now again something weird happened. We copied some stuff. And that is because we are adding now the end in there. So we have to remove the end container. I guess we can do that the same way as well. So we can just do that. And we call this the end container. And this is going to be span number 1. Oh, no, I can't do this because I have to add this thing in the middle. I guess I can do start container, insert adjacent element. Can't I do something like that? And it should be after, right? Or after end. Maybe that's how it works. It's very weird, this insert adjacent element API. And this we can do with insert because we are going to delete it over here. So we don't even have it. Let's do that. Tum tum tum. Whoa, what? I said the wrong text now. Wait a minute. Yes, because this has to be span number 2. Because this is 0, this is going to be 1, and then this is going to be 2. Let's refresh. And tum 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 tum. Almost. We again lost our caret position now. So perhaps I did something I shouldn't have done. Let's go back to the one that worked. So this one works. If I go here, it works, and I can continue over here, but then we're going to copy the end again. So what if I just delete the end? So I will just do this. Query selector all, span. I guess I can just call it end. End container. And I will remove the end container. And then I will add end container class to it. And do I need to do something like this in case it doesn't exist on the first try? Maybe. So now if I do this, we are here. And if I go over here, it still works. Amazing. So now it works. Look at this. I can go here and we get auto-completion. If I go over here, we get auto-completion again. And I can still move this caret around. So every time we get to the end of a space, then we add this. So I guess if I add a space, it will be added there. If I remove it, it disappears. Amazing. But we add an extra space. That's a bit funny. So maybe from the end we have to remove. How do we do that? Because it looks nice here. But then when I remove this, it doesn't actually remove the space, which is weird. And now I broke it. Oh, I didn't. For some reason here it broke. Anyway, it seems to be working pretty well. So if I add a space and I remove it, it doesn't actually remove it. I cannot remove it with the backspace. I have to use delete. So that's an issue. When we remove the auto-completion, we just remove that. And should we remove a space from the beginning of the end? I feel like that's going to do something unexpected at some point, but let's see. Let's remove those, and then let's remove from the end container or end container text content equals div text content slice position. But I want to just do one. So I remove the first character. But it seems like we shouldn't have to do that. I don't understand where the character appears. But now we get some error. Invalid left-hand side assignment. Sorry, I have to use exactly the same thing here. Can I use slice with a string? Apparently I can. So that's what I want. Refresh. Wait a minute. What is wrong with this code? Div, query selector, end container, text content. Can I not have the question mark here in this case? That equals query selector, end container, text content, slice 1. That should work. What is wrong with that? Now it works. So if I go here and I remove this, it works. What happens here? We only have to do it if we have one. So I guess I can move this inside here, and I can use, instead of document, I use the div. So we find the auto-completion inside the div, and if we have one, then we remove it, and then we remove this. If we don't have it, then we don't remove it. Makes sense. So if I now refresh, and I go here, and I go back, it works. If I put a space here, that's kind of weird, but anyway, it works. If I put a space here, and I remove the space, it will be removed. If I add it, for some reason we don't add the thing. I don't know what is going on there. If I add it here, it works. If I remove it and I add it again, it doesn't work. Why? It is space, but we still removed auto-completion. Let's refresh. And if I go here, it is a space and we add it. If I remove it, it's an M. If I add it, it says removed auto-completion. But it is a space. So what? If it is a space, then we do this. Otherwise we do this. But even if it is a space, we still didn't do it. That's weird. Is it some special character? No, that's weird. I am now logging when we remove the auto-completion, which character we are removing. And if I go here, we are adding it when it's a space. And if I remove this and then I add a space, then the character is still a space, even though we check if it's a space. So what I'm guessing is happening here is that this is some sort of special character. So let's actually paste it in here. And as you can see, it is an invisible character. I'm not sure what this is. Maybe this is like the non-breaking space or something. But I'll just add it for now here as a space. I'm not sure if there's like some sort of isSpace function in JavaScript. But let's do it like this for now. I have to figure out why it is like this. But basically now, if we go here and we go there, then we add the auto-completion. And if we move around, then it will disappear. And if we go here, we will add it there. And if I add a space here, it will be added there. If I remove it and I add it back, then it still works. So now it is in fact working properly. And what if I select all? I actually can't select all for some reason. Probably because I am now at the end, and when I press a button, it is going to add the auto-completion, which will screw up the Control A. So that's something we have to fix. But if I go here and I remove everything, and then I say something, we get an error. So now we can't set the text content of what? We can't set the start container text content because we don't have the first span, because when we Control A and we remove everything, it will disappear. So we should fix this somehow. I think we can fix the Control A situation by just doing this. We get the E from here and we say if not E dot control key. And I guess we can take all of these keys. If we have another key that we are pressing at the same time, then we are not going to do this. But then when we remove everything, we should add back the span. So how are we going to do that? Where did the error actually come from? From here. We can't set the text content of the start container. And we assume that we have the start container because we add it here in the init. Now I guess we can just add a new one. So if we don't have it, then we add a new one. So I guess this has to be called let, and we should actually check it because this might be an empty array. So we don't have the key 0. So let's move this into its own thing. Let's say const divs equals, or spans really, spans equals this. And if spans.length, if we have a span, then the start container will be that. And do we actually reference this anywhere else? No. So we can still call it const because it will be only referenced in here. And otherwise, we are going to create the element and set the text content to the start and add it to the div. Let's see if that will work. Refresh. And it still works here. If I select Control A, it will remove everything. If I do that and I type something and I add a space, it almost works. So it added now this as a duplicate. So in that case, I have to set the text content to nothing. But will that screw everything up again? Let's see. Div.text content is empty. And then if I refresh and I Control A and I delete and I do that and I put a space, it works. And we are still focused here. So now it works. Every time I add a space, it adds this. So it works. Now that's kind of funny because I have this spell checker. So every time I press space, the spell checker resets. And something weird happened at some point. It duplicated everything. I'm not sure when that happened. And it still works a bit weirdly. Okay. That is weird. Did we add multiple things there, or did we just add to it a lot of text? I think we added multiple autocompletions here. And because we did that, then we actually added to the end container all of these tests. So I have an issue here, which is that I should always remove the autocompletions. So I will move this up here. I always remove the autocompletions if I have them, because I guess I can press space multiple times and then that will happen. So let's try again. Hello, space, and go here, and go here, and Control A, and write something, add a space, it works. Control A, okay, sometimes Control A doesn't work. Not sure why. Control A, Control A. The second time it works, that's very weird. But anyway, I can now type something here, and every time I hit space, I get the autocompletion. So it's working pretty well already. There's still a bunch of bugs, I'm sure, but maybe we can continue. Yeah, Control A is weird. I guess I could also check the state, that if we're already showing an autocompletion, then we're not going to do it again. But if we remove it every time, we can't do that. So I guess if I move this back here in this else statement and I check up here if we have one of these, or if we have the autocompletion already, then we return. We don't do it again. Maybe that will also fix the Control A. Control A, and do this and add a space, Control A, space, Control A. Now it seems to be working. So if I add a bunch of spaces here and I go here, Control A, it works. Space, Control A, space, Control A. Now it works. Let's see if I can screw it up. Can I add a new line? I can. Something weird happened again. We duplicated some stuff. Oh no. It's very buggy. I wonder why that happens. Where do we append? We append this and we append the end container. And here we delete the end container every time we remove the autocompletion. But when I Control A and I remove everything, it removes the end container. I mean, yeah, it shouldn't matter. Let's try to replicate this issue one more time. So if I just type something here, everything works perfectly. If I press Control A, it still works. If I replace everything again, it still works. If I Control A and I move around, it still works just fine. If I go to the end, it's a bit weird when I go to the end. But that's not such a big issue. But the issue is when I add a new line. And then I do that. Okay, new line is the thing. Add a new line. A, B, C, space. Okay. I'm guessing that when I hit enter, I will make a new div in here. Okay. So that screws everything up. Because now the span is inside the div. So this is going to be much more complicated than I expected. Okay, I realized that I was doing this in a very complicated way. So finally, I asked ChatGPT, how do I add an element to a div to a specific caret position in a content editable div? And then I got a nice answer. So basically, we can do this. We can create a function, insert element at caret. And here we just set a tag name and some attribute, and we just create the element based on that. So we don't have to care about this part. But then we again get the selection and we get the range. And here we delete what is in the range right now. And then we have this range.insert node. And we can pass the element in here. And then we can set the range to be at the start after the element. Although in this case we want it to be before the element. So let's do it this way. Let's copy everything under this if statement. And we do not have to create these start and end divs. That is what screws everything up. So we only create this autocompletion element. And we don't append it to the div, and we don't need the end container, and we don't need to set the caret position. We are just going to do this. So we get the selection, and if we have a range in there, we get the range, and I think we don't need to delete the contents, in fact, because we just want to add more stuff. And then we insert in there this autocompletion container. And we set these to not after, but before the autocompletion container. And that should be it. And of course, down here, we again don't need to add this start container. We can just set the div text content to the element value, just like we originally did. And then that should work. Let's try it. Let's save it. And let's go here and let's refresh it. And if I go here and I go over here, it will be added there. And if I continue from here, it just continues nicely. And if I go there, it will be added. And if I add a space here, it adds the autocompletion. Now we still have to add a space over here, but that is a small issue. And if I Control A, I can just delete everything and I can write something. And every time I end in a space, it will add some stuff wherever I am. And if I hit enter, I can add here new lines. This is a bit weird because it shows like that, but if I continue, it will remove it. So yeah, now it works. I can click over here, I can add a space, and then, damn it, it still doesn't work. Oh, this is because I have this check here, that if we already have the autocompletion. Because I had a space and then I added a space, then We need to remove this, and we do need to remove it every single time. We are going to do that. But we don't have to care about this end container. So we just remove the auto-completion containers. Now technically there should be only one. So maybe I can just do query selector and remove. And if the character is a space, then we add the auto-completion. So we create the element and we do all this stuff. I don't want all these comments in here. We get the range and the selection, and then we add the node in there. Now I guess I can move this inside this if statement. Let's do that, because we don't have to create the element if we don't have a selection. So that makes sense now. We still have the get caret position, but we don't need set caret position, I guess. So I'll just remove it. And wait a minute, get caret position. How is this so much simpler than this? Maybe there's a way to make this simpler. Maybe not. Anyway, now it should work. Let's try one more time. Space, and it doesn't work. What? Inspect. Console. Cannot read properties of null. Where is this? Let's refresh and let's add a space. Reading remove. Okay, so we don't have the freaking thing. So this is going to be null. So we have to add the question mark there. So then if I go here, it is added. If I add a space, it is added there. And it now works amazingly. Now this is funny because there is a space now at that position, but it is actually a new line. So that's a bit weird, but I can live with that for now. And we can Control A, we can remove everything, and we can do this. And every time I end with a space, it will add the auto-completion there, wherever it is. Amazing. So now it works. In the next video, we can actually integrate ChatGPT into this so that we get an auto-completion from ChatGPT. So if you want to see that video, then make sure to subscribe to my channel and you won't miss it when I post it. And let me know your thoughts in the comments. How well did I screw up this video? Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.